Welcome back to Let's Play The Evil Within with me, Jerupidus. And we just saw there that we woke up in that sort of operating room, and before it was a doctor and an attendant that briefly turned into Kidman, but there it was just straight up Kidman, and then apparently we shot ourselves in the face. And this is the beginning of Chapter 15, the final chapter in the game, and Evil Within.
Nobody here at all?
That's right, no one is here. Now let's grab this missing persons poster. Missing woman, missing short brown hair, brown eyes, responds to nickname blank. And that nickname, of course, would be Kid, because that is Kidman. It's a little hard to tell because she's kind of younger there, but it's definitely who that is. And now, I'm going to grab this personal document over here in just a second. But first, we're going to check the lockers to see if there's anything we can take with us. And I feel like right now is a good time to review what's going on in the game plot-wise, because a lot of people had trouble understanding what's actually going on in this game. And the reason for that is twofold. One, a lot of it is locked behind the DLC. So in the base game, which we're playing right now, and we will definitely be playing the DLC to get a clearer picture of the plot, but I am going to include a little bit of spoilers for that, just so that we can understand what's happened. Now, if you don't care about that and you want to just get right into the gameplay, feel free to skip ahead a few minutes, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit at length. So here we go. As you've probably put together by now, where we are is not real. We are in what is called STEM, which is a device that Ruvik developed, who was originally Ruben Victoriano. He is called Ruvik in this reality, basically as a way to meld people's consciousness together. Now, it all starts with the church from Ruben's childhood, where they were kidnapping people, and kidnapping is going to be a very common theme in this. Basically, everyone is kidnapping. But we'll get to that in a sec. And the church was doing human experimentation. That's where we were when we met Noin and Zane, the two giants. They were part of the church's experimentation. However, I don't feel like the church is particularly relevant. The only reason it's in the game is because Ruben remembers it. Because where we are is inside of Ruben's head, more or less. He is completely in control of STEM. Now, as a child, he was doing experimentation on animals, but I guess somewhat brilliantly. I mean, it's a hallmark of psychopathy or serial killers where they do torturous experiments on animals and then move to humans, and that's exactly what Ruben did. But his experiments as a child caught the attention of Dr. Jimenez, who was very impressed with his work, despite the fact that it was very disgusting. And he sort of enabled him, and it moved to Dr. Jimenez supplying him with bodies. But this happened after Ruben's barn was burned down, his family barn, because his parents were very rich, buying up properties all around. The townsfolk got angry, burned down the barn, trapped Ruben and Laura inside. Laura burned to death, maybe. She ended up in a coma at the very least, and Ruben was convinced that she was still alive. Now, his burns were so hideous, and the accident was so bad, that his father pretended he actually died in the fire and locked him in the basement. That was the basement segment with all of the ridiculous traps in it. And why his mother says that in one of the documents that he sounds very close, because she actually does hear him in the basement, but apparently never thought to just go check. Anyway, he eventually murdered his parents in revenge, although I feel like his mom is a little bit blameless, but he killed them both. Particularly his father for locking him down there. This is when he kind of starts to become Ruvik, where he is hideously disfigured. Dr. Jimenez starts supplying him with kidnapped patients from Beacon Mental Hospital to continue his work on melding people's brains. Now, apparently, he constructed STEM in such a way that really only his brain can make it work, with the exception of Leslie. Leslie shares a brainwave pattern with Ruvik, and that's why he calls him compatible. Okay, if you're still with me, Now, Dr. Jimenez betrays Ruben by stealing his research and publishing it. But who is Dr. Jimenez working for? Now, here comes the spoiler. He is working for an organization called Mobius. Mobius can be thought of as basically the Umbrella Corporation of this game. Umbrella, of course, being the evil corporation behind things like the TNG virus in the Resident Evil series. Mobius is just an evil organization. They want STEM. Why will be fleshed out a little bit more in the DLC, but the point is that Kidman is also working for this nefarious organization. That is a bit of a spoiler, but it's what's going on. Her motives are very unclear and are fleshed out in the DLC. We don't really get that picture in the main game, but where Sebastian's story, where his house burned down, he lost his daughter in the fire, his wife seems to think it was on purpose. She believes that Mobius is behind that as well. That's what she's investigating. This is where Sebastian's story and Ruvik's story begin to intertwine. Now, Myra, Sebastian's wife, is investigating Mobius, but she's getting too close. That's why she ends up disappearing. Ruvik gets betrayed by Dr. Jimenez. For Mobius's benefit, they want to take control of STEM. Now, why are we here? It's not really clear how we end up in STEM, and so this is what I'm talking about. Japanese storytelling is very comfortable with under-explaining things or just leaving things out and leaving it up to your imagination. They don't always fully explain anything, and if you've ever watched any kind of anime movies or Japanese movies in general, they're just comfortable with that kind of storytelling. There's a lot of just innuendo and asides that don't actually explain to you what's going on, and that's a little bit what's going on with the storytelling here. But the point is that Kidman has decided that she wants to kill Leslie. Now, why is Leslie here? In part because of Mobius's experimentation with Ruben's STEM system, but the reason she wants to kill Leslie is because, if you remember, Dr. Jimenez says he wants out too just before Amalgam kills him. What's going on there is that Ruvik thinks that he can use Leslie to meld their minds and then escape STEM in Leslie's body. And Kidman has decided that Leslie has to die so that Ruvik cannot escape. Now, if you're wondering, why don't they just shut this whole thing down? Well, because Mobius wants it. And why don't they just kill Leslie? Well, apparently it's designed in such a way that it will only work with Leslie's mind or with Ruvik's brain. Now, I hope that gives you a clearer picture of the story, because it sucks that a lot of it's locked behind DLC and a lot of it is underexplained just due to straight-up Japanese storytelling. But I don't think it's a bad story, and it has this reputation of just being a mess and being very confusing, when I don't think it's actually that confusing at all. It's actually fairly straightforward. It's just a little bit undercooked. If you have any questions about that, I would love to discuss it. Please leave me a comment, and we can definitely talk about what's going on here if you have any questions at all. Now, I think what I want to do is bump up my Magnum as much as I can. We're just going to make sure it shoots as fast as it can. None of that matters. I don't think the accuracy matters. And let's just do a little bit more shotgun ammo. That'll be just about the rest of our green gel. Sure, that works for me. We can't take any of our green gel with us, and we're in the final chapter, so we might as well use it. Now, let's go ahead and grab that final personal document. Internal Affairs Interview Transcript, March 13th, 2013. Investigator Phi, you know why you're here. Detective Castellanos, because you people aren't doing your job. Phi, you've been pursuing an unauthorized investigation and using KCPD resources to do so. In addition, there are reports of threats, intimidation, and physical violence. Castellanos, if you had any proof of those allegations, you'd be taking my badge and gun right now. And Phi, you've obviously been careful, otherwise we would have, but we're watching you. Castellanos, you're not the only ones. And Phi, what's that supposed to mean? Castellanos, keep following me. You'll find out soon enough. Phi, you keep drinking like you do. We won't have to. Castellanos, I've got work to do. Are we finished here? And 5, for now, but you're on thin ice, Castellanos. If I get even one more report, you're through. And Castellanos, I'll be through when it's over. And he leaves.
Ruvik?
Losing our minds. Losing our minds.
And it's interesting that it's Leslie, but Sebastian thinks it's Ruvik.
Losing our minds. 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 This way.
Now, that's a very significant change in Leslie's behavior. But let's follow him. An optic nerve L.
Hey, wait!
And we see these beds here all hooked up to all of this cabling, and we're going to kind of get a lot of that. And this is kind of a tub room where the water spills out below.
All right, kid, where are you taking me?
And Leslie is trying to show us the facility that we're actually in. But I love that his stance there, he looks like a haunted in the distance. Like, the way that STEM affects people sort of does that to them. But Leslie's kind of just like that. But it's interesting that the way other people, which are what haunted are other people who have died in STEM, who have had their consciousness totally overwritten by STEM, look. And they look a lot like Leslie in here, in a lot of ways.
This way.
It's going to come down.
This way.
All right, I'm coming.
Sebastian! Leslie! Beacon, just like Joseph said.
And where are we? But of course, back by the mental hospital, where it all began and where it all centers. Let's go ahead and grab these boxes over here before we continue. And now I feel like I've given a picture of what the plot of this game is on paper, but I am going to give a little bit about what I think is going on.
I knew it.
Because this game is kind of fun to theorize about because they do a little bit of under-explaining, and there are a number of plot holes, but here we are back where the game started, and isn't this cool? I just love this callback. It feels like so long since we came here, but this is where it all began. Oh man, I just kind of get chills coming back here. And right up here, we're going to hear an audio tape, so I'm just going to let it play and we'll give it a listen together.
The sedative they used on me must have been my own. I was aware of every slice, every severed nerve, every tug of flesh pulled away from my bones until absolute darkness overtook me. Darkness and pain. 1,000 other sensations as they probed my cerebrum. Examined my work. An eternity of intensity. Pain. Pleasure. Rage. Ecstasy. Blending together into a single piercing noise. Until the darkness was broken by sparks. Like twinkling starlight. The pain. The noise. The light blends together. Takes shape. It's a place I know so well. My prison. My home.
You brought this on yourself.
Now, I kind of disagree with Sebastian there. I don't think Ruvik brought this on himself particularly, but I mean, it is kind of his fault for researching these things, but what that is supposed to tell you right there is that what Mobius has done to Ruvik is completely severed his brain from his body, and he is now a brain in a vat controlling this place. But I find the cutscene where he is taken by the Mobius operatives kind of pathetic. And here we are at that blood tank where we dumped out when the Sadist was originally chasing us. Which is just such a cool callback. To the very first chapter, right when we first started, we were limping through here trying to just get away. And now in here, I'm going to double back a little bit because there are a couple of drops. And we'll pick up that document in just a second. Yep, 5 trap parts. That's pretty nice. Now let's check this out. Newer note from Sewer. Do you still dream of escape, so near at hand? What is the point of dreaming when your body lies here, never moving? From R. But I do dream of escape. I would love to get out of here, to be honest. This place is awful. It is basically if the Matrix was run by a complete psychopath. Or another way of thinking about it is if the movie Inception, the dream you were inside, was also a psychopathic killer. Which would be very, very bad. And the dreamlike qualities of this game, because of the truth about the plot, which is that we are inside, basically, of Ruvik's mind, or at the very least connected to his, and so things having a dream-like quality makes sense. You know, the teleporting around, people kind of mixing identities, things like that. But I don't know how much I like it as game design. Like, it's not nonsense, it does make sense, something I alluded to in a previous video, but I don't know if I love it. And this symbol on the door right here is going to be the Mobius symbol, and that's going to matter a lot in the DLC, but I just want to point that out.
Leslie?
Don't go there. No!
And poor Leslie, he just gets used by everyone. They either want to, like, pluck his brain out of his skull, Kidman wants him dead. It's, he's not having a great time. And none of it's his fault. He just happens to share brainwaves with Ruvik.
By the time I realized Jimenez had betrayed me, it was too late. I was so close. He knew it. Knew that I was too focused to notice when he brought those men. They'd never gotten past my traps otherwise. Their device is a perversion of my own. The device I should have created. My data, my equipment, my theories, my mind. They replaced my husk of a body with a new dimension of torment.
And so once again, I don't feel sorry for Ruvik, but he definitely, you know, had his sister burned alive, got hideously scarred. He was already kind of a psychopath, but then he was a brilliant scientist, but even then he got all of his stuff stolen to the point that they literally stole his brain from him. So while he is not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, he is definitely a tragic character in a lot of ways. And here we are back in front of the Beacon Mental Hospital. Now, the first thing I want to do is run straight to the left here. This is so easy to miss. Leslie's right in front of you. The whole building's right in front of you. Why would you turn to your sides? But you have to get the final map fragment in the game. Number 28, our map is done. And $5,000 of green gel as a reward for exploring this area. Now, I did say we would be back here, and this is something I want to point out. Let me grab this green gel over here first. But these bushes are the same asset that were around the mansion.
Leslie?
So these bushes are the same asset that were around the mansion, but these have collision, and the other ones don't. And that's what I mean when I say this game lacks a little bit of polish. Stuff like that just kind of bothers me. It just feels like an oversight. But now that I've pointed out my little nitpick there, another thing I want to point out is the change in Leslie's behavior. In that little cutscene there, he's feeling the rain on his face, and he gives us that smirk as he walks away. And he's kind of lost his little shuffling walk and his repetitive behaviors that he does. But I think that's all that I'm going to say about that for right now. And let's stop over here. And I think that this is a really nice touch. Safe haven is gone. We can still save, and we still have a chair we can use, but it's been crumbling the whole game, and now it just doesn't even exist anymore. And what I think that means is that there was a safe place in Leslie's mind, and that was kind of safe haven. The nurse was from the mental hospital, and it was the place where he lived, so he would think of it as a safe place. And it is fading away. It was crumbling, and now we can't even access it anymore. But since the chair is here, I suppose we may as well use it. $8,000. What else can I put on my Magnum? Let's do some more accuracy. And what else can I get? Anything cheap? Yep, we'll just spend it because we got it. But the nature of Safe Haven disappearing, I think, is also kind of Leslie disappearing.
I know you're out there.
Let's talk to this crazy guy.
Watch out for his eye.
What?
If you want to live, you avoid Ruvik's eye. Watch out for his eye.
What's that supposed to mean?
You'll see.
Poor guy. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace indeed. I don't know why I like doing that. It's just so insensitive. But they give you the option. The button prompt is right there. I just can't not do it. Oh man, and here we are in a gigantic battle arena. The ceiling is covered in eyes. How am I supposed to watch out for those eyes? They're everywhere. But that scene, I feel, kind of encapsulates what I'm talking about when I say that Ruvik is kind of pathetic in a lot of ways. This is the only world where he has any power. But believe me, we are in for a fight. Now, I'm going to make a bunch of explosive bolts because the enemies in here are crazy numerous, and it's best to just kind of jib them when you can. And what I like to do is just kind of stay in one area where I have them kind of in front of me. Because the AI is a little bit bad at mantling. Boy, what is going on with the camera up here? I'm gonna go to a different spot so the camera stops doing that. Let's check out over here. I am very lucky that he chose to mantle instead of shoot. Now the fat ones you still want to knock down and burn, even with all of your upgrades. And we're going to get a little bit of a break in the middle of the arena here. Yep, let's... Oh, boy. Oh, I almost got grabbed there. Where's that clone? Oh, I gotta take him out fast. I'll even take a hit to do it. And this whole arena reminds me very much of a Doom arena. It just kind of feels like one. Okay, I have time to get my explosive bolts back on. I'm all out, so let's make some more. Is that gonna... Thank you. That just chose not to know there was an enemy by it. Alright, how do I want to deal with Fatty? I guess the shotgun will be fine. Let's make sure we're reloaded. Go ahead and make some more explosive bolts. We have so many trap parts. This is going pretty well so far. This can get ugly, and that Ruvik clone, the grabby hands are a one-hit kill. But we're gonna get a pretty big wave this time. I don't think they come from this side. Oh, yeah, they do. Okay. There's not really a good place to hide, so you do just kind of want to stick and move. Yep. So let's keep it moving. How about over here? This looks like a good spot. Although the camera is going to be wonky over here, but that's going to be fine, I think. We're going to need to get out of here. Fortunately, with our sprint time fully upgraded, it's pretty easy to change sides in the arena and get everybody back in front of you. Look at how many there are. Let's take this opportunity to make a bunch more of those. It's just such a ridiculous number of enemies. Alright, I feel like we're doing pretty well now. I want to make sure... Okay, I've still got an extra one of those. And now we have a rocket launcher wielding Sadist, so we gotta move. Now, if you just kind of get behind a wall, he can't pelt you with rockets while you're dealing with everyone else in here. Just want to make sure nobody's flanking me. Oh, he's put it down. Okay. We'll wait for him to mantle. And let's get over here. I'd really like to kill everyone else. And I do love that he just climbs the ladder like an ordinary person. It's kind of the best. let's just make sure we're maxed on these. That's not good. But yeah, we are more than equipped to deal with this. Should we, you know what, for old time's sake, let's stab him in the gut. We don't need any of these newfangled weapons. This is how we do it. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. Little early. Oh, God. How did he not get me? Just a touch early on the flashbolt, and I almost got killed for no reason at all on the final enemy in the arena. Okay. Now let's make sure we loot this area. There's a ton of stuff in here. You can kind of deal with it however you want. But if you've done a fairly good job of saving your stuff for the right scenarios like I have, you won't have too much trouble here. And there are going to be some green gel drops around from the various enemies you've killed. So I will try to be thorough and pick all those up, but, you know, I don't want to spend too much time messing around in here. The end of the game is tantalizingly close. Wow, there was a torch in here the whole time? I wish I would have known that. Kind of hard to keep an eye on everything that's going on. Alright, one last loop around and then we're out of here. Alright, now I'm going to want to get out my sniper rifle because the next section is going to be a sniping section. And we've got a nice full clip. Oh, one more green gel drop. I'm telling you. Oh, and there's another one. When you're kind of frantically running around killing a million enemies, there's just going to be stuff all over, and it's hard to spot it all. But I'm ready to move on. Now, when we move to these sides, there's going to be a sniper and a projectile-throwing dude. Don't think he can hit me from here. But what I would like to do is take out the projectile-throwing guy while he still has the dynamite in his hand. If I can. They do have a bit of a rhythm. It looked like he didn't light it. Alright, I think I got both of them. And there's going to be two more on this side. And I think that dynamite blast, yep, that'll do it. All right, not too tough. I feel like it's more of a gotcha if you don't know what's going to happen. Another option is you can just kind of run up on them, but with 2 snipers, that's not a very good idea, I don't think. Let's pick up any stuff they may have dropped. And now we won't really be needing our sniper rifle anymore, so let's put our Magnum back on. And this is gonna be fun. I think I have an idea that I'm gonna try out this time. So let's give it a try. I'm gonna do something a little bit new that I don't usually do. Okay, so this is very clearly yet another arena. Oh. I think that's appropriate. I've been so good at those the whole game. Frankly, I won't really be needing the health, but there is one right over here, so I guess we may as well get back to full health. And I'm going to go ahead and just pick up all the stuff in here before I kick this off. Because why not? Alright, Magnum's ready to go, shock bolts are ready to go, let's kick it off. That's right. 2 keepers. And they're dead. All right, I do love the Magnum. It's sad that it kind of trivializes these encounters, but frankly, 2 keepers can be very hard to deal with, as you may imagine. And, you know, the Magnum's in the game, so I'm not really cheating or anything. I'm just using the best possible strategy against them.
Ruvik.
I created this world. You cannot keep me here.
And now we have a very, I guess I would call this like zany. The walls kind of remind me a little bit of a more gory kind of Contra level in a lot of ways when you get to the alien parts of the game. But all that happens if you step in the spotlights is they just start you over. So you just kind of navigate your way through this and avoid the spotlights. It's a very strange section. I think I can make it? No, I gotta wait. Okay. And, you know, honestly, I've never done that shock bolt strategy before. But that worked insanely well, so that's pretty cool. Aww. All right, well, you know what? I'm a little off on my bomb skills today. But frankly, we won't need the health. Now, this part I always struggle with. It's really hard to see what you bump into on this, and you will really frequently bump into something that is not readily apparent. Oh. Should be able to go now. Yep. All right, let's try it again. There we go. And that part is so weird because you'll feel like you did exactly the same thing, but that time you succeed. And now we've got to run away and avoid these blood pools. If we step into them, it will slow down our run speed. Like that. But we made it. Okay, cool. And where do we end up? But back in the same place again. And this time, there's no chair anymore. Nothing between us and the end of the game, so let's get to it.
If I make it out alive, I'm never riding in an elevator again.
I was waiting for that. I like the sentiment there, but it's funny to me. Like, imagine never riding in an elevator again. Like, imagine going to a really high building and being like, you know what? I had a bad experience once. I don't ride in elevators. You would eventually relent. But here we are, and this is kind of, a facsimile of what's really going on here. We're going to see that in a second, but it's interesting that, like, this is the lighthouse. The center of where all of this stuff is happening.
It can't be.
Help! Help!
Sebastian, get away from him. Sebastian, listen to me. Stop. Your interests are the same as ours.
Look, I get it. You're not just some rookie detective, and this is not just some ordinary kid. You killed Joseph and you shot me. So right at this moment, that's enough reason for me not to trust you.
You're a good man. That's why Doesn't matter anymore. If you know who this kid is, if you know anything, you know why he can't be allowed to live.
Bullshit. It's Ruvik. He's the one that... Leslie, stop.
Leslie!
right there is where Ruvik, I believe, absorbs Leslie into himself and sort of becomes Leslie, which is what Kidman was sent here to prevent. And here we have our epic climax. We got to avoid these grabby hands. And we got to keep running, because if we're too slow, we will get grabbed from behind. And I love his braces. Why does he have braces? Oh yeah, it's the car-mounted gun. I do like, so this is absolutely ridiculous, obviously. But I do like the fact that it sort of brings back together all of the stuff throughout the game. And these are obviously marked targets that we need to hit, but in the downtime you can shoot the brain to kind of damage it. And somewhat comically conveniently, our good friend the Sadist drops right next to us with a rocket launcher, because it's the end of a Mikami game, there has to be a rocket launcher. Now, I find this section, you just kind of have to get lucky. Because there's a long delay on when it hits. And he kind of leans back and forth, so it's really hard to tell when you're going to score like a direct hit. I feel like this is going pretty well, though. And now we need to hit this brain. But you just have to keep shooting over and over and hope that you score direct hits, and he doesn't kind of lean out of the way. That one missed, and that's not good. Oh, I feel like that was super lucky, like we were almost dead. We have one last chance. We gotta hit this shot. And there it is.
I created this world. You cannot keep me here.
Ruvik.
And when he says that, what he means
I'm going to finish this.
is that he's trying to escape. And we walk over and let's smash it.
Vital signs, sir.
Leave that one. And those two. They're not going anywhere. No one can.
Go, go, go! Detective, are you all right? Is there anyone else?
Just give me some real fresh air.
And that concludes The Evil Within. Now, one thing I did want to talk about is some things that I think are going on. But for the text of the game, what I believe happens there is that we discover that Kidman is working with Mobius, but she kind of sneaks us out of there or allows us to escape in some way. Dr. Jimenez is dead. Whether or not Joseph is still alive, having been shot by Kidman in there, is an open question. At least for now. We're going to find more out about that in the DLC. But one thing that I want to point out that I think is going on in the game text that is not directly addressed, but I think makes a lot of sense, is that there are sort of STEM machines within STEM, because it's all controlled by Ruvik's mind. So, it seems to me that at the beginning of the game, we are already inside of STEM, but as the game progresses, we end up going to kind of deeper levels of it by being plugged into STEM machines that are within STEM. That's kind of supported by one of the cutscenes, where the crazy guy inside of the locked room, who we find dead at the end of the game, mentions to us that he never thought that Ruvik would destroy a STEM terminal. And what I think he means by that is one of the STEM terminals inside of where we already are, which is already STEM. It's all a little bit levels on levels, but I think when you look at some of the cutscenes, it makes a lot of sense that if the heightened reality, or sort of altered reality that we're inside of, once we're there, you end up going deeper and deeper into this sort of nightmare realm. And I think that at the end of the game, one of the final cutscenes, Sebastian wakes up inside of a tub and destroys the brain, but I don't know that that necessarily means that that sort of thing happened in real life. I believe that just allowed him to exit STEM by destroying the source of control from within it, but not externally, if that makes any sense at all. You know what? It probably doesn't, but the point is that the plot is definitely very obtuse, but I do think that if you are paying attention, it at the very least on a surface level, provided you don't ask too many follow-up questions, makes a good deal of sense. Now, Ruvik's fate at the end of the game is definitely an open question, and whether or not he escaped inside of Leslie, it seems to imply that he did, but it's not completely clear. But I like to think so. And as far as a final review or final thoughts about this game, it's a very frustrating game. It's like there's so much here. All of the ingredients seem right. You have a new survival horror game from a new studio, headed by Shinji Mikami. But it's like making a perfectly pleasant-looking dessert, but you accidentally use salt instead of sugar. It's perhaps more edible than that, but the point is that the sort of obtuse story combined with some unpolished sections of the game and mechanics that don't seem very well suited to use, where the stealth sections are a little bit wonky and you feel like you're playing a stealth game, and then it becomes kind of a strategy shooting game, and then it becomes kind of a straight third-person shooter. And I feel like it's trying to be all three of those things and not doing any of them especially well. Now, with all of those complaints, it is still a fun game, but it is a frustrating game where it's very, very punishing. There's a lot of instantaneous death for a tiny mistake, and some of the checkpoints are in bad places, leading you to have to loot all over again. There are definitely a lot of serious problems with this game. That being said, I actually really like it, and I find it hard to put down. When I start playing, I just want to keep going. I find meeting the challenges that the game presents very satisfying and very rewarding because of the penalty for mistakes being so steep. When you finally succeed, it's a real fist pump moment. So in a lot of ways, I actually really like it despite having a lot of complaints about it. And I believe that's all of my thoughts on this game. I hope that you had fun watching it. I had a lot of fun playing it, especially now that I'm a little bit better at it. Going into this blind is pretty brutal. Going into it with some experience really opens the whole thing up and makes it a lot more enjoyable when you understand the mechanics better. and understand what the game is asking you to do. So if you had fun watching it, if you want to see more stuff like this, if you want to see more survival horror content on the channel, please leave me a comment, leave me a like, let me know you enjoyed watching. And I just want to say thank you very much. Thanks for staying with me all the way to the end. I really appreciate your support. And I will see you in the next video.